Today, I have for you two furniture makeovers that are absolutely stunning and I can't wait to show you. Let's get to it. All right, friend. So today we are going to be redoing this footstool. It came from the Goodwill and it was only $4.99, which is an awesome deal. It's actually pretty. I have my camera in wide lens and it's pretty big. But anyways, it's actually leather, or it looks to be leather, but I don't like this orangey tone, so we're gonna reupholster it, but nothing to where we are damaging the leather. That way we can always remove the fabric and use it as is if we wanted to. But I just don't want to ruin this. We are going to be painting the legs, and hopefully I don't mess it up. As always, first thing to do is to make sure that it is clean. It was actually in pretty good shape. There was not a lot of dust or even dirt on it, but I always like to clean, disinfect, and everything. So I'm going to do that all over the leather as well as the legs. And then I'm going to carefully remove all these staples on the bottom because I am going to reuse this black fabric that is on the bottom of it. I don't have anything that is similar to this that I can cover it at the end. So I'm going to carefully remove every single staple and then reuse it at the end.
It's 2 a.m. and I can't fall asleep 'cause I'm not tired.
For the legs, I am going to give them 3 coats each of this regular household latex paint in white.
I'm thinking about the days we used to shine when we were young. I told you that we should start a band and reach for the sky. It's 2 a.m. and I can't fall asleep. I'm just not tired. I can hear the raindrops falling. It's cold outside and I kind of feel like calling, but it's too late now. I just miss you.
I'm going to load my electric stapler here. If you don't have an electric stapler, I do recommend something like this, which is simple. You can get them at the hardware store and they're really easy to work with. This fabric I got at Walmart recently. It was $9.99 and it's 2 yards and it comes pre-cut and it's by Better Homes, and I think it's Better Homes. Yeah. And I loved it. I love the texture and it's actually really thick. It's very good quality. I thought it would be perfect to upholster the footstool. So I'm just going to set it on top here and you can tell how large this piece is. So I'm going to widen my lens here. This is probably how it's going to be the rest of the time I'm filming it. But so here I'm just making sure that I have enough fabric that kind of goes over each edge. And then I am going to cut the excess on the other side to ensure that I do have enough for all the edges. And basically, I'm sure you have seen people upholster. So the way I do it is basically I just pull on one side first, put in a few staples, maybe 3, maybe 4, but mostly just 3. This is just to hold it in place for the time being. Then I go and do the opposite side. And then I pull, so that the goal is to make sure that it is nicely pulled, but not too much where you can see the fabric stretch. So then I go onto the sides and I do the same thing. I staple a couple on the middle and then I go on the opposite side and staple it there.
I just miss you. We were such a constellation.
And here I'm just going to flip it real quick just to make sure that it's looking the way I want and it's looking perfect. Because it is a striped fabric, it is also important that they look like they're going straight and not at an angle, because you can easily notice that when it has stripes like this. For the legs, it's a little bit more complicated, but it's just like wrapping a gift. You know, you just want to make sure that things are tucked in nicely neat and that the staples are going to be hidden towards the sides. And then also make sure that it is nicely snug around the legs to make sure that it's not going to slip. I am cutting slits like this, like you see here, Probably 2 for each leg, and this is to allow me to be able to just pull and be able to have things nicely snug. To the front side, and I'm going to show you in a little bit, I just folded. I folded almost like in a triangle so that I have a fold going one way and a fold going the other way, just like you see there. And then I'm going to fold the top portion, the one I cut, so that it looks nicely neat around the leg. And then of course, stapling it, it's a little harder when you're in that like tight spot, but carefully it works out well. So I did the same thing on the other side, and then I repeated the whole thing on all 4 legs. And I am going to show you different angles in case you've never done this before. It just shows you kind of how I did it. I'm no expert in upholstering, but I have done it a few times and they always work out pretty well. Oh, this is like a little bubbled. Now I'm gonna go around and just keep pulling. So I only stapled like 3 or 4 times in the center. So now I need to go and start pulling so that we don't have those bubbles. So I don't know if you see them right here. See, if I pull there, it'll stretch it and it'll staple it. And I'm gonna do all around. Now I am just stapling away. I must have overstapled. I'm sure I did. But I like to make sure that it is snug and neat and it's not going to come off because I have kiddos and you know they're going to jump on it. I'm sure they are. So here I am putting back the black fabric. This is, of course, the one that you saw that came with it. And I'm just going to staple it all around. And I did notice there was a lot of like dog hair. So I did, once I had it stapled and where I wanted it, I did vacuum it a little bit. It wasn't coming off a lot. So then I used some tape to pull off the excess hair and it worked out fine. But let me remind you what the table looked like, which is fine. If you love this style and you love this color, it's absolutely fine. But I wanted a little bit more modern, a little bit more brighter, and this is what it looks like now. I am in love. I love it. I have it in the living room already on my side of the couch. And I can't wait to use it every evening when I sit down to relax.
I can hear the raindrops falling. It's cold outside, and I kind of feel like calling, but it's too late now. I just miss you.
For the next DIY, we are going to take this little side table that it's like a nightstand. It was actually ours. Embarrassed to say that that knob is broken for quite a bit. It's pretty heavy duty. We've had it for many, many years. It's been really good to us. But it just needs a refresh. As you can see, it's just very beat up. From afar, it looks like it's all good, but when you look up close, it needs some help. So we are going to clean it up and give it a new look. I'm going to show you here a little bit behind the scenes on how I transfer my furniture. I have these little roller platforms, and I'm sure you've seen them before. They come even larger too. And I usually just have these two, and it transfers small pieces, large pieces. They're really handy to have. I have actually used them quite a bit and then helped my back. So first thing is first, as always, remove all hardware, making sure that I keep them just in case. At first I thought I was going to reuse them, but then I decided to switch it up, and you'll see what I used here in a little bit. And then it's time to clean it up. It was not in horrible shape, thank God, because it was ours. But it did have some dust and some little dirt here and there. So I just cleaned it with some water, wet rag, and crud cutter. And I'm going to use Dixie Belle paint, which is in their color kudzu. I have used several times in DIYs, and actually I think I did a side table with it about a year ago, and it's a beautiful green color. Actually, the camera here doesn't do it justice. It kind of looks very bright, but it really isn't. It's actually a very muted farmhouse style green, and I really love it. So I am using a chalk paint brush that I get on Amazon. I get these all the time. I actually have always on hand several new ones. It's my go-to. I love chalk paint brushes. They hold a lot of paint and they leave very little amount of brush strokes. I do have it on our Amazon store. If you have not visited my Amazon store, I do have my favorite supplies, painting, crafting supplies, and tools in there. And if you want to check it out, I do have it linked down below. So I'm just going to give everything let's see, I think it was 2.5 coats, if I'm not mistaken. But the half was like very little. 2 coats was actually very, very sufficient.
Let me feel your love again, 'cause I've been running round in circles, screaming out your name. Take me to a different place, just the two of us, and we can stay up all night, kissing under streetlights, doing what we want to, doing what we need to do.
I do want to mention that when you see me spritzing, it's because chalk paint, specifically good quality chalk paint like Dixie Belle, is really thick, and often if you spritz it, it softens and it glides a lot easier, and it's just so much better. So I do get my spritzer on Amazon as well, and it is also on my Amazon store. So instead of a water bottle where it kind of sprays and it kind of drips, the spritzer literally just spritz, and it's almost like a mist, and it's really, really nice to have. So once you see me spritzing the table as well as the paintbrush, and it depends on what you want, but both ways works to soften the paint a little bit. So I'm going to be distressing this table. You know I love my farmhouse style distress look, but if you do not like it, you don't have to do it. You can certainly leave the pieces just as is. I am going to distress using the wet distress technique, which is just take a rag that it's wet, not soaking wet and not just damp. You want it to be fairly wet. And then you just want to start to soften the paint and then start scraping the paint off. Not scraping, but removing the paint. There you go. By rubbing it, and it just gives it a smoother kind of distress. My go-to way to distress is by using my palm electric sander. However, I did not want to remove any of the black finish that the table had, and so I went with the wet distress. That way I can still see that black come through. But basically I'm just going to focus on all the edges and quite a bit in all the areas. I wanted to have a medium kind of distress.
Everything is alright. Oh, I wanna be with you. Oh, I wanna be with you. Let me be the someone who can hold your hand. I don't even know if you can understand how you make me feel. I got you in my head. Oh, I wanna be with you. Oh, I wanna be with you. Let me be the someone who can hold your hand. I don't even know if you can understand how you make me feel. I got you in my head. Oh, I wanna be with you. Oh, I wanna be with you.
As I mentioned earlier, I thought at first I would use the knobs that it came with, the little pools, but I changed my mind. So I am going to fill in the hole with some wood filler, sand it down a little bit, wipe it off, and then paint again. I should have done this before I painted. So if you're going to do this, and if you've never refinished furniture, make sure you do this before you paint. I'm just doing it now because I changed my mind, and I thought some pools that I already had on hand from Amazon would work really great for this little table. So this is why I'm doing it now. But please do it before you paint. But it's no big deal. It's just paint. So after I wipe, you can see I'm just going to retouch the paint and then let it dry. And then after it dries, it's time to start sealing the piece. You can use wax, you can use a top coat like polyurethane, which is my go-to. I use Varathane Crystal Clear and the polyurethane, and this is in their satin finish. I don't like the matte because it's just too matte, but then glossy is just too glossy. The satin just gives it a nice sheen to it, and I think it's a great finish, but it's all whatever you like. I am using a sponge applicator that I do get on Amazon as well. This is actually half of a sponge. I cut them in half because they're just massive. And basically you just dip it in the top coat and you just wipe it on. Don't panic if you see white. It is white, but if you keep, just wiping it, it'll turn clear and it'll actually dry clear. After the first coat, I sanded down very, very lightly. This is a 220 grit sandpaper, and I mean lightly. I'm not even doing a lot of pressure with my hand. And then I'm going to dust it off, sand it off, make sure it's clean. And then I'm going to give it 2 more coats on the top and 1 more coat on the rest of the table. These little pools, as I mentioned earlier, are from Amazon, and I had already on hand. I use them for DIYs, and I just thought they would look perfect. So I just pre-drilled holes with my drill, and then I screwed them in. You want to pre-drill because you want to make sure that the wood is not going to crack on you when you are when you are screwing in your screw, which is why I am pre-drilling. I am going to remind you as well of what this table looked like before we give it a new look. And this is what it looks like now. I think it's absolutely stunning. The new look, it's fresh, it's chic, and it has a slight farmhouse style to it. I think it will look great as an accent table or a side table. A nightstand will look great as well, but I love it. So let me know in the comments which one is your favorite, or if you have any questions. I am not the most experienced expert on painting furniture, but I have been doing it for a while. So if you have any questions, I'd love to answer for you. If you are visiting for the first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you get inspired to paint your own furniture and give life to old pieces. If you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. I am going to have another video here with tons more furniture flips for you. Check it out. I'll see you later and have a blessed day. Bye.